There you go, buddy. Good morning. Welcome to Mindfulness in the Morning. I'm Chris. This is Caspian. Come over here where they can. Come on. He's a good boy. He's a real good boy. So today we're going to talk about blessed are the meek and other things that sound crazy until they don't. Caspian is currently sitting on my notes, which is fine. He does this. I think it's his way of participating. Either that or he just likes paper. Hard to tell with cats, isn't it? So I want to talk this morning about something that sounds completely backwards the first time you hear it, and probably the second time, and maybe even the third. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Now, I grew up hearing that. And my honest reaction for most of my life was something like, sure, okay, whatever you say, buddy. Because look around, the meek don't appear to be inheriting anything. The meek appear to be getting cut off in traffic, talked over in meetings, and put on hold for 45 minutes. And Caspian is looking at me right now like he completely agrees with that assessment. Thank you, buddy. Very helpful. Here's where it gets interesting. And I mean genuinely interesting. Not I'm saying interesting because I don't know what else to say. Interesting. My buddy Emmett, and if you don't know who Mr. Fox is, he's a spiritual writer from the early 20th century who had a way of taking things that seemed obvious and blowing them completely open. Fox points out that the word meek, we use it in today, is almost the opposite of what Jesus meant. Today, meek means spineless, doormat, the guy who apologizes for existing. Fox actually references Uriah Heep, not the rock band, a Dickens character who was fawning, groveling little weasel, and says that's what the modern reader pictures when they hear the word meek. And that is not what's being described here. Caspian, for the record, is not meek in the modern sense. He once knocked over an entire glass of water on my desk while making direct eye contact with me. That is not the behavior of a creature who lacks confidence. But I digress. Fox says that the true meaning of meekness in the biblical, technical sense is actually a combination of three things: open-mindedness, faith in God, and the deep down conviction that the will of God for your life is always going to be better than whatever you have cooked up for yourself. That last one, sit with that. The will of God for you is not punishment. It's not settling. It's not giving up on the good stuff. Fox is saying it's actually more than you could imagine, more than your ego would dare to ask for. He uses Moses as an example, and I like this because Moses is not someone who we associate with meekness, for God's sakes. He parted the sea. Moses went up on a mountain and came back with the commandments. He was dealing with a Pharaoh, which, trust me, is not a job for the faint of heart. But he says Moses was famously meek. You ever heard of meek as Moses? Not because he was weak, because he had a completely open mind. He didn't reject new revelation just because it was strange or revolutionary or inconvenient. He was teachable. And that teachability, that willingness to conform his life to something bigger than his own agenda. Fox says that's what made Moses extraordinary, not despite the meekness, but because of it. I think about people I've met in the rooms over the years. Some of the most powerful people I know in recovery are the ones who figured out how to get out of their own way. Not pushovers, not weak, just open and available. Caspian is now grooming himself, which means either he's contemplating the nature of surrender or he found something on his ear. Could be either. Now, here's where the recovery piece connects in a way that really landed for me. I was looking at something from one of our texts recently, and a passage A passage that essentially says nothing will keep us from recovery more than intolerance or indifference towards spiritual principles. Not relapse, not our past, intolerance and indifference. Intolerance in this context isn't about how we treat other people, though that's part of it. It's more like spiritual rigidity, the closed mind, the attitude that says, my way is the only way, or that principle doesn't apply to me, or, and this one I have to watch for myself. I already know this. I already know this stuff. That last one is sneaky because it sounds like wisdom, sounds like confidence, but it's actually just the ego putting a padlock on the door so nothing new can get in. Savvy? Intolerance often masquerades as strength or discernment. But Fox would say, and I think he's right, that it's actually just fear of change dressed up in a suit. See what I did there? Then there's indifference. And honestly, indifference might be more dangerous of the two. Because intolerance at least has some energy to it. Indifference is just drift. Skipping meetings because nothing dramatic is going on, half-heartedly working steps, going through the motions without any real investment. Indifference feels like comfort. That's why it's so dangerous, folks. It doesn't feel like anything is wrong. It feels like rest. And I say this as someone who has been there, who has sat in the comfortable numbness of, I'm fine, nothing's on fire. I don't need to do anything differently right now. That's the drift. That's how people end up dry instead of recovered. And you'll know the difference when you meet it. Caspian, by the way, is never indifferent. He either wants attention desperately or wants nothing to do with me whatsoever. There is no middle ground. He is emotionally committed whatever he's doing at all times. I'm not saying that's the goal, but there is something to be said about showing up fully. Oh, buddy, come here. Come back over here. So what does inheriting the earth actually mean? Fox says the word earth in the biblical sense refers to your entire outer experience. Your circumstances, your relationships, your health, your affairs, everything that happens in your life on the outside. And to inherit the earth means to have dominion over that, not in a controlling way, but in the sense of bringing your life into harmony, true success, and real peace. Here's the part that rearranged some furniture in my brain. Fox says all causation is mental. People like to use the word manifesting lightly. It's real. Meaning your outer life is a reflection of your inner states, including the ones you're not consciously aware of, which is unsettling because it means the work is never really out there. It's always in here. But meekness, true meekness, is the key. Open-mindedness plus faith plus willingness to let God's will come about in whatever way divine wisdom sees fit, rather than the very specific way you had planned. There's an old saying Fox mentions, meekness compels God himself. And I love that. Not asks God, not begs God, compels God. There's something in the spiritual universe that responds to that quality of open, humble, faith-filled surrender. Something that moves towards it. I don't know exactly how that works. I just know I've seen it work. In my own life and in the lives of people I walked alongside. So here's the gut check for this morning. Fox gives us two things to examine, and they're worth bringing into prayer or into the conversation you have with your sponsor or just sitting with quietly. Am I being intolerant right now towards a person, towards a spiritual suggestion, towards a spiritual principle I think I've already figured out? Or am I just going through the motions? Is there something I'm doing out of habit rather than genuine investment? Either one is worth looking at. Neither one is condemnation. This is just information, folks. Recovery isn't a destination you arrive at and then coast. It's a living relationship with something bigger than yourself. And meekness, real meekness, not the Uriah Heep variety, is what keeps that relationship alive. Open mind, faith, willingness to be led somewhere better than where you've gone on your own. Now, Caspian has relocated to the windowsill and is watching a bird. I don't know what he's thinking, but he looks very focused. Maybe that's meekness too, just being fully present or what's right in front of you. Just being fully present to what's right in front of you. And for me right now, that's you. Maybe that's meekness too, without an agenda. Or maybe he just wants the bird. Either way, good morning, have a good day, and be teachable out there. Deuces.